Hey y'all. So a few weeks ago, while I was having my quiet time, God had me read First Samuel 8 through 10. And um, as a practice, I read, I pray, and then I write. And I write down what he says to me while I'm praying about what I read. And this time he asked me to record it. So I'm trying to stick with my and keep my yeses at yeses and not as yeses. So I want to start with I'm not a preacher, I'm not a teacher, or none of it. I'm not going to read the chapters, but I will paraphrase um, and use portions of the scriptures. Um, but I prefer that you read these chapters yourself so God can give you more specifically what he wants to reveal in you. Um, I'm just trying to do what he told me to do and keep, my yeses at yeses and not at yes. So when I was reading, he revealed a few things about me. One is how much I have allowed myself to blend in with everybody else. Two is how my inability to be disciplined and follow directions, be teachable, has led to me not being as far as I thought I should be in life. Although with him, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. But, anyways, lastly, that God is still going to use me to do something great. So, when I was reading chapter 8 and God was telling Samuel that what the king was going to do, I was like, okay, so, he's going to give them a good government job, make them soldiers, and they're going to pay taxes for representation. Sounds really normal to me, because they wanted to be like other nations. They didn't want to be set apart. They wanted to look and act like everyone else. And the price that they would pay to assimilate with the world was their daughters would be removed and forced to work in the palace. Their sons would be forced to tend the king's land, not that of their fathers, which they would one day inherit, become soldiers, and some would have to even use their body as a human shield for the king. The part that stood out to me was that people chose this without knowing if it was going to be a good or a bad king. Would he treat his subjects well? Would he rape their daughters? Would he slaughter their sons? Not one thought was given to the type of person that would be chose. They just wanted to be like the world. Yet I'm over here sacrificing my family, my finances, and my calling, trying to be like everyone else, but convincing myself I'm different. Right. Just like the Israelites, I was making the conscious choice to reject God daily because it wasn't the desire for a king that was the problem. It was the rejection of God as their king and desire to have a man be their king because isn't that what everyone else is doing? Then I get to chapter 9 and here comes Saul, sent out by his father to find their missing donkeys. So him and his servants set out to obey his father. Only they couldn't find them. And Saul says, look, I'm over this. By now, my father is probably more concerned with our whereabouts than that of his donkeys. But his servant was like, hey, Saul, I know a guy. This man of God knows everything for real. Like, everything he says happens, like, boom. Then here comes Saul with the excuses. We ain't got no food. We ain't got no money. We ain't got nothing. What are we going to give this man? Not realizing that a prophet works for God, not what they can get from the people. But his servant was ready for his excuses nonetheless. So the servant's in this little pouch situation, like, I got a little something I've been holding. Let's go. If the people around you aren't pushing you to your destiny like this man, not knowing how great the blessing is that's on the other side, you need to let them go, sis. You need to let them go, bro. They are not for you. In this moment, Saul was faced with a choice. Do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? I don't know. But anyways, no, really though, do I go back to my father who's worried about me? Or do I go and seek the man of God and get a word to help me on my journey? Now, Saul unknowingly was literally standing at the threshold to his blessing. Would he still have been king if he went back? Possibly, because God tends to circle back. But in that moment, God literally had the table set for him. God had the man of God waiting for him to take the steps in the right direction. And he didn't even have to go all the way to the end, because the blessing met him en route and brought him to a celebration where he was treated as the guest of honor that he was. How many times do we let our lack of finances, lack of education, lack of confidence, stop us from moving forward? How many of us get right at the threshold of the promise and turn back? They were out of money, food, and didn't have what they set out for. Like I said, broke, busted, and disgusted. Isn't that how God works though? He was coming to get direction for his journey, simply to find his donkeys. And God went and made him king. Man, God is amazing. He went above and beyond what Saul could even imagine. In chapter 10, after enjoying the feast, Samuel takes Saul aside and anoints him and sends him out with a word from God, given a set of events that would and have to happen. But God already has Samuel anoint him. God already had the man of God deliver his word. I have the degree, the title, the permission, the position, promotion, or business. So why am I still in waiting? Why am I not successful now? Why am I not being used now? Why am I not seated in my throne now? You mean to tell me now I have to walk back to where I came from? I have to wait again. But I did what you said. I took the steps. You came to me. You put this on me. I didn't ask for this. And now I have to live as before. God gave Saul the instructions so Saul could see and trust God. I mean, I'm sure there was like a twinge of doubt. I mean, if it was me, it'd be a twinge of doubt. I'm just saying. But the walk back was about Saul's growth. The Saul going back was different than the Saul that left. The Lord provided him with the word of knowledge to ease his mind and give him rest on his journey. The donkeys have been found and your dad is worried about you. God provided him with sustenance. You will be offered 2 loaves of bread. Take them. And then he filled him with the Holy Spirit. The Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you and you will prophesy. Yet he still had to wait 7 days for the man to God to come tell him about the next part in his process to becoming king. Now, for all those fulfilled signs, after taking all those steps obediently in the right direction, after receiving the word, you would think Saul would be confident in himself, God, and his calling. Nope. Instead, Saul chooses to hide when it was time for him to be publicly placed in position, because now it's real. The responsibility, the accountability. Now I have to be who God said I am, but I'm so different from everybody else. So God called him again. And it was the thing that made him different that allowed the people to recognize him. God will do bigger and better than you can even think or imagine. And the thing that makes you different, the thing that makes you insecure, the thing that isn't like everyone else, is the thing that God's going to use to set you apart, to be seen, to be used, to know you are the one that God chose for this moment. Your shady past, your inarticulate speech, your wild hair, your thing is your identifier. Yet with all the excitement and celebrating after he was anointed king, they were still haters because, baby, there will always be haters. There will always be naysayers and people think that people that think that it shouldn't be you. But God. Like, no, seriously, thank God for but God. That is all that is needed in any situation. But God. God said it will happen and he will do it in front of every bit of gossip, sabotage, and scheme. If God said it will happen, it is going to happen. And one more thing. When Saul's uncle asked what was said to him, he never mentioned the kingship. You don't need to announce every promise God has placed over your life because you might be telling the enemy where to attack. Let God reveal you in his time. Thank you for listening. Peace.